and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite brands, Addiction Tokyo, and they have released their new fall collection, Italian embroidery, and I had to pick this up for a variety of reasons. So they did send me two of everything in PR, so I will be showing you those as well, but I also placed a large order and purchased a quite large amount of this collection myself because it's just stunning. So this collection really called to me for a few reasons. One, I actually really like cross stitching, which is a type of embroidery. So there's kind of that aspect. Also, it launched on my birthday, which I felt like, that's a sign, right? And, I've been really wanting to try a lot of their eyeshadow quads. They have been redone. So we've seen them in Japan. They have not been available on the Addiction Tokyo US website for the quads. So these new versions have been redone. They are available here in the US. And we have some of the previous color stories that were available in Japan, as well as some new additions. And I cannot wait to share these with you. So I have 8 of the eyeshadow palettes, a whole bunch of eyeliners, and some nail polishes. So let's go ahead and we're going to get started. Let's start off with the nail polishes. So these two were gifted to me from Addiction Tokyo. They were actually the two that I really wanted, so I didn't purchase any additionals. But you can see this one here is going to be a pretty, this one's more opaque. It's a really beautiful champagne brown shimmer. So it's kind of like a soft neutral brown with some champagne shimmer in there. This one here is called Dark Parade. And you will see this in some swatches, in some eye swatches as I'm using that. So when I first painted my nails, I did alternating color of 2 coats of Dark Parade and 3 coats of this one, Astro Dream. So you can see it looks pretty dark in the bottle, but as I'm tilting it, you see this bluish tint. This is really going to be a soft blue jelly with kind of this golden olive shimmer to it. And that's what I have on my nails now. So in the original demo that you'll see with the eye swatches, I used 3 coats, which is going to be this darker shade here. This is what it looks like with 3 coats. But now I did it with 2 coats. And 1 coat is going to be even more sheer. So we really have kind of this soft blue jelly. It's like a really beautiful medium blue. And then look at the shimmer on here. It's just stunning. So we have kind of this bronzy golden olive shimmer in it. And I love the combination. So these are really nice. They're a really great solid nail polish brand in my opinion. And they hold up really well. So I do not have a top coat on, just 2 coats of the Astro Dream. And I would expect it to last throughout the week without any, major like chipping or anything like that. And that's how their polishes wear for me on a regular basis. So I'm just going to swatch these on some paper for you so you can see it. But first, let me just show you the brush. We do have kind of that wide-sized brush. And I personally really like that. So this is just the back of some like packaging material, but you can see we do have kind of this lighter blue and it's really beautiful. It's such a nice medium blue. There's not really gray in it, but there's like a hint of gray, if that makes sense. So, it's not a grayish blue, but we do have a little bit more of that like dustiness to it. And then the Dark Parade here is going to be a really beautiful, more opaque shade here. And you can see it's kind of like a soft fawn brown with like a champagne shimmer in there with a little bit of silver as well. So the combination of all of those almost make it a taupe. It's definitely more brown than a true taupe, but because we do have kind of that silver shimmer in there as well, you kind of get a taupey glint sometimes with the light. You can see this is going to be a lot more opaque overall. So the Astro Dream is going to be an SP formula, and that one is actually going to be 120 SP. And then Dark Parade is 119 SP. So these are both going to be limited edition shades. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on to the mascaras and eyeliners, and we'll swatch those. Then we're gonna swatch all of the eyeshadow palettes. We'll talk about everything while we go through eye swatches for all of the shadows. And you'll be able to see some of these eyeliners and mascaras in action during the demos as well. So let's start off with the mascaras. So these mascaras are the Color Nuance waterproof mascaras. And I have to say, I really like these. I just recently spoke about these in another video. I have the shade Pine Tree from the Permanent line, which is a favorite of mine. And these are going to give you, it's more going to be a lengthening mascara. You can get some volume when you pile it on, but it's definitely more lengthening. This first one here is Pure Scarlet, which is 13S. And you can see that this is going to be a red with a little bit of an orangey base to it. So it's going to be that warm, fiery red. So this is Pure Scarlet. And you'll see in the eye demos that I tested this one out on its own as well as on top of a black base. So you can see what that looks like when we get to the demos. What I have on now is number 15S, the Blue Lapis. And I love this one. I love blue mascaras because they give just a little bit of something to your lashes. That's how I feel in general about color mascaras, but you can see if I used a blue eyeliner and using a blue mascara with it really emphasizes that. And it can also help take away some of like your natural redness in like the waterline and so forth. I typically don't use eyeliner pencils in my waterline because one, they don't really last. Two, I have incredibly sensitive eyes. So something that helps disguise it a little bit is using a cooler shade as a liner and mascara. So I absolutely love this combination. Then we have 16S Matcha Blink. And this is going to be more of your chartreuse green. Matcha is a good name for it. So you can see it's going to be one of those yellowy greens. And this one's pretty unique. So this I like on the lower lashes. Mixing and matching these is always a great option. So these are the mascaras. They are waterproof. They go on easily, but they also remove very easily. Let's take a look at the liquid eyeliners. And I have to say, I absolutely love the liquid eyeliners. We'll talk more about these in a few minutes, but they did release some pearl shades as well as some solids. So these two here are going to be our classics. This one here is going to be our black. So this is 001C Black River. And let me just show you this applicator here. Let me go ahead and put this up here. You can see we have a brush tip applicator. And one of the great things about this applicator is your bristles really are staying together to give you a really fine point. And it has the perfect amount of flexibility. I am somebody who doing wings is not really my forte, but they're so easy with these liners. This one here is 002C Melting Brown. And yeah, it's just a great kind of medium tone brown. Next, in the pearl formula, we have this one here, which is going to be kind of your olive green. This is Olive Glitz 002P, P for pearl. You can see that the pearl is going to have a bit of shimmer in here. It's more of a metallic liner. And you can see that this olive is more of a golden olive shade. So we do have a bit of kind of a soft golden hue to it. Then we also have number 4P Amethyst Night. And it's just a really beautiful, soft, more of a lilac purple. So between lilac and lavender, but we do have a little bit of pink in there, and you can see that beautiful pearly finish. Now, these, again, they have kind of that metallic pearly finish, but you don't have any like loose glitter or anything like that, making them really easy to use. You could also use these all over the lid as a liquid eyeshadow if you want it. And they actually work really well on the lower lash line and kind of getting right up close to that waterline also. And that's what I like this one for. This is 007P Icy White. And you can see this is going to be kind of a silvery white. So it's like a white, it's kind of one of those bluish silvery whites. You have a little bit of blue, a little bit of silver in there, but it's such a great brightening shade. And I love mixing it with some of the others. So typically my favorite liquid eyeliners have been the Yuzi Beauty and the Suku. I have to say, these, you know, they might have moved their way up to the very top. I just find them to be the easiest liquid eyeliner I've ever used. So I really love them, and I love the flexibility of the brush tip over a foam tip applicator as well. It's a little bit easier to kind of clean if you have any residue or anything on there as well. So absolutely loving those. Let's take a look at the gel eyeliners. And these are the gel eyeliners. So you can see it's going to be a fine pencil. We do have a smudge tip at one end. And this one I haven't used before. I want you to see what they look like when they're brand new. You can see we kind of have a flat top, so it's not shaped at all. And it does click up. You can see this. It does not click down. So that's just something to note. I find that this style is really easy to use with a liner brush. So just put it up a little bit and then take a liner brush, you know, kind of just rub it along the top. And that's how I like to use this. But let's go ahead. We're going to swatch these. I ended up picking up quite a few of these. I really like these. So this one's 002 Vintage Leather. And you can see it goes on super smoothly. It's creamy, yet these stay put and last all day. And this is going to be your black brown, basically, your coffee brown. This one is 003 Old Brick. And this is another brown, but this one is going to have a bit more of a reddish base to it. And yeah, you have just a little bit of kind of that rusty brown mixed in there. So it's neutral, leaning warm because of that rusty hue. Then we have 004 City Dusk. This one here is going to be your gray. And you can see that it's a really beautiful gray, but it's not going to be super cool. This is going to be a warm gray. We actually have a little bit of brown in this gray. So it makes it really wearable. It doesn't get too cool. And then what I have on right now is 005 Night Dive. And again, I think this is great with the lapis mascara here. You can see this is going to be a deep blue. And if you use a liner brush to put this on, you can definitely get kind of a softer blue, a little bit closer to this lapis shade. But if you want to pile that on, you can get almost as deep as a navy. This one is 006 Ivy Tree. And this is going to be one of my most used. So this one has a little bit of that olive green mixed with some brown in there. So it's kind of like when you're looking at traditional camouflage, it is that darker greenish brown shade. So I think it's just a really great neutral. And with my eyes, they're technically hazel because I have brown and green mixed in there, but they really pretty much look brown. So I just say that they're brown, but when I wear shades like this Ivy Tree, then it really enhances the green and the gold in my eyes. Next, we have number 8, Rose Rust. And this one here is going to be more of your berry shade. Kind of a classic reddish berry. And number 10, Bloody Berry, is also going to be a berry shade. So you can see between the two, number 10 is going to be cooler than number 8. So Bloody Berry is a little bit cooler. It's also a little bit deeper and a little bit more of a Merlot. So just a little bit of a difference between those. You can see that the Rose Rust, in comparison, you can really see a lot more of that rusty hue to it when you have them next to each other. On their own, the Rose Rust really just kind of looks like a warmer berry shade. When you take a look at this, you're looking at more of like your Merlot berry. And I just think these are absolutely beautiful eyeliners. Let's take a look at the eyeshadow quads. So before we start with the swatches, I just want to show you the slight change in packaging. So this one here is one of the older palettes that I purchased from Japan. You can see it says Addiction Tokyo down here. Other than that, these palettes, the packaging is the same. So our new one has Addiction Tokyo going down the side here. The font is going to be a little bit larger. the shades, these are not going to be removable. So these are not refillable quads. However, you know, Addiction Tokyo does make tons of singles and sells their quads separately, the packaging, so you can create your own quad. However, for these pre-designed color stories, they are not refillable. So the palettes do come with a couple of dual-ended brushes that you can use for application. And I have daylight swatches in a couple of shorts. So definitely check those out. I'll leave those linked down below. This first palette here is number 1, Vintage Tutu. And we're going to try to keep these pretty compactly swatched so that we can fit all 8 of our palettes. So you can see the first shade is going to be a sparkle shimmer shade. You can put this on more sheerly or pile it up like in the swatch. And you can see it's a little bit of a peachy champagne. Next up, we have more of this satin matte, and that's going to be a little bit of a peachy pink. The third shade here is going to be a pink satin. And you can see this is going to be a really beautiful rosy pink. Think of like your quintessential rose. And then our fourth shade in this palette is also going to be a brown satin. So it's a soft, warm brown. So this palette here is going to be neutral, leaning warm. Our overall pop of color here is going to be pink. So we have little bits of pink hues kind of in this whole palette. And Vintage Tutu, I think, is a really apt name because you kind of have that dusty ballet kind of vibe to it. I think it's a really beautiful palette. Next, we have number 2, Cashmere Dream. And this is going to be a warmer color story here. So we start off with more of a peachy shimmer. And then our next shade here is going to be a really soft, this is a very, very soft, let me go over that again, soft shade here that has a little bit of peach mixed with a taupe. So you have kind of that like mink taupe kind of shade. There's a little bit of gray, a little bit of brown, a little bit of peach kind of all mixed together. And it's just a really beautiful soft base. Our next shade here is going to be a satin, and this is going to be a true peach shade here, more of a dusty peach. And then our last shade in this quad is going to be a warm brown, and we have a little bit of golden shimmer in there. So you can see this is definitely going to be a warmer option, the Vintage Tutu. Again, this one is Cashmere Dream. Next, we have number 4, Autumn Runway. And again, we're looking at a warmer palette here. We start off with again, it's more of a peach shade, but this time we're looking at a golden peach shimmer. You can see it's got more yellow in it than the Cashmere Dream. Our next shade here is going to be a satin matte soft brown. You can see there are slight differences in all of these browns. This one is going to have a little bit more yellow in its base. Then we move on to kind of this rusty shade here. And this is going to be a satin. It's going to be a nice, rich satin. These are incredibly smooth. And our last shade here is going to be a deeper brown. And this is a true neutral brown. So I think this is a really great fall quad. That's what it makes me think of. And Autumn Runway is a perfect name. Number 6, Hidden Orchid. And this is one that I received in PR. We start off with a sparkle shade here. And you can see this is different than the sparkle shades we've looked at. This is really going to be more of a pressed glitter. It feels a little bit, I wouldn't say moist per se, but it's a very finely milled pressed glitter. So there's a little bit of moisture in there that helps kind of adhere it together. And you can see it's really going to be a true white sparkle. Then we have kind of this soft brown here. And you can see that this is going to has a little bit of pink in there, but you can see how it compares to the others. We have kind of this soft pinkish brown, and it's going to be a little bit cooler than ones that we've seen. And then we have this really beautiful purple shade. I mean, look at this. Stunning purple here. And this is going to be kind of like, I would say lavender. It's closest to lavender because it does have blue in there, but a true lavender will have just a touch more blue. So it's a little bit neutral than a true lavender. And then our last shade here, I love this shade here. This is just a classic brown. We do have, this is a satin finish, so we do have a little bit, when you build it up, you get a little bit more of that like grayish hue to it, but this is going to be a brownish taupe. If it has just a touch more gray, it would be a true taupe. So it's almost there, but it definitely is going to be more brown, and it's going to be a bit cooler. So this second shade here is our warmest in here. Overall, this palette is going to be neutral leaning cool, but we do have a mix of tones. So these are the first four. Again, we have number 1, 2, 4, and 6. Let's take a look at the next 4 that I have. All right, so this one here is number 7, Memory of Sage. And this is going to have a little bit of green, but otherwise we're looking at kind of, you know, it makes me think of like sunset. You kind of got those like warmer, like golden hues. Like when you see the setting sun, you know, reflecting on something, you get kind of that soft golden hue. So we start off with kind of that soft golden topper, and then we go to this warm brown satin with a touch of like a dusty gold in there. And then next up, we have a warm brown. There is a little bit of, it's a little bit of a soft red mixed into the base there. So you do have some warmth. It's definitely going to be a warm brown. And then the last shade, this is our quintessential sage here. And you can see it's going to be a dusty sage. We have that green, there's a little bit of blue in there, but it's really a true dusty sage. And that's what makes the palette. So I absolutely love the sage in particular in this one. I think the colors go really well together, but I would have loved to see a slightly cooler brown in there as well, just to make the palette overall slightly more neutral than what we have. Number 8, Miss Mauve. This is what's on my eyes right now, and definitely one of my favorites of the 8 of the 12 palettes I picked up. So this one here I received in PR, and we start off with this beautiful purple, and you can see this is going to be a dusty lilac. So we have a little bit of blue, we've got a little bit of pink in there. You can see as it spreads out, you get a little bit more of that like rosy shade there. And this is definitely going to be a shimmery satin, and I absolutely love that color. Next up, we have kind of this very soft rosy mauve shade here. So that's like a great base shade to kind of put all over. Then we have this champagne taupe. This is going to be a satin. And our last shade here is going to be a deeper mauve here. And we do have a little bit of brown mixed in there. I think this is just such a great neutral palette. If you have brown eyes, I think this is a palette that really makes them pop while still remaining pretty neutral and sophisticated on the eyes. Absolutely love this one. Here's number 9, Enchanted Lilac. And I really like this one as well. It's similar to Vintage Tutu. So we'll look at those together. But between the two, Vintage Tutu is going to be warmer, and Enchanted Lilac will be a little bit cooler. So you can see we start off with this kind of sparkly topper shade, which looks like a champagne, but we do have some silver shimmer in here. So on the lid, at least on me, it's going to look a little bit cooler and more silvery than it appears in the arm swatch. Then we have kind of this peachy satin shade here. And moving on, our pop is going to be this pink shade. So think of like pink lilac. That's kind of what we have there. And then we have a really beautiful brown here, and this brown is going to be a little cool. So we actually have a faint touch of gray and purple mixed in there, and so that's going to be a cooler brown. And just so you can see them together, this again is Enchanted Lilac, and then up here at my wrist we have Vintage Tutu. So you can see that the color stories are very, very close. Enchanted Lilac is going to be a little bit cooler. So if you love the color story, but your skin tone runs a little bit warmer, you might want to go with Vintage Tutu. And if it's a little cooler, perhaps Enchanted Lilac. Then last up, we have number 12, Heirloom Jewel. Look at this. I love this. You know, you might think that this one would be a little hard to wear, but these colors, you can use these even just with like regular neutral shadows and use these shades as pops of color if you would like, or use them as is. But we can go soft, we can build these up. We have kind of this true lilac purple here. So think of like a Miss Kim lilac tree or bush, and that's what that shade is. Then we have this warm pink. Think of like a salmon. This is kind of a matte salmon pink. And then for our satin, we have this beautiful orange satin. And there's a little bit of pink in there, so it's not a pumpkin orange. There's just a touch of coral. And then our last shade in here is going to be more of a mulberry. And look at that. I think it is beautiful. So you can see the last shade is going to have a satin finish. So this is Heirloom Jewel. So over here, our palettes, we have 7, 8, 9, and 12. So let's look at all of these. So starting up here by my wrist, we have 1, then 2, 4, and 6. Then we move on to 7, 8, 9, and 12. Let's move on to the eye swatches and the demos while we talk a little bit about these products. We'll talk about everything. We're going to start off with the eye swatches for all of the palettes, and I'm going to put these numerically so you can see them just like the way we swatched them. And then I do have a couple of eye demos to show you at the end, featuring some of the eyeliners, mascaras, and so forth as well. Now, according to Addiction, these are timeless and fresh, and we're talking about the eyeshadows here. It's a skincare-inspired eyeshadow palette that brings your individuality to life. This eyeshadow palette holds 12 different kinds of stories that support you through life like a treasure. With a smooth texture that melts into the skin and a skincare function that moisturizes the eye area, it delivers a more sophisticated finished quality. Modern but universal colors envelop the eyelids in a thin coat of clear coloring, allowing you to freely craft a myriad of beautiful looks. Now I have to say, I did eye swatches for all of the 6 palettes I purchased all at once. So that is going to be, a ton of eye swatches there. When I did the Dior Plan de Paris palettes, and I believe I had 3 of those palettes, and I did the eye swatches on those, my eyes were sore for weeks. The glitter on those really created a lot of micro cuts. My eyes, yeah, they're a little sore from doing all of those eye swatches, but really it's not bad. These are so gentle on the lids. So if you have sensitive eye skin, which I mean, everybody's is going to be sensitive to a degree, but if it is on the more sensitive side, then, I find that this formula is really definitely is more gentle on the lids than other brands. A few more details from Addiction. It says newly developed sophisticated textures in 12 color combinations. It's made with velvet creamy oil, giving it a velvety, soft, exceedingly cozy texture. Thanks to our skin melt technology that coats the powder with oil, it melts onto the skin and adheres snugly. So if you've tried the Addiction Tokyo blushes, I have raved about their blush formulas. I absolutely love them because they feel like they melt into the skin. Kind of similar to the Suku Melting Powder blushes that were discontinued. That is what these eyeshadow textures feel like. So they're definitely more like the blush formula in the way they feel going on. So according to Addiction, it won't feel thick even when layered, and its clear coloring goes well with any skin. It contains cosmetic ingredients that care for the eye area during wear. It's free of parabens, gluten, alcohol, and fragrance. So definitely a plus for me. According to Addiction, they have 2 newly developed base formulas to deliver the smooth texture that melts onto the skin. So their pearl base is going to have a silky glow oil formula, and they've mixed 3 different types of silicone oils to blend them together to increase the spreadability and the adhesion to the eyelids. So it's moist but not sticky, yet thin with a beautiful finish that lasts. They have light reflecting oils to offer a soft, airy texture. The formula also imparts a beautiful luster and translucence. The matte base is going to have fine textured spherical powder to create a light texture that spreads easily, and oil coated surface treated plate like powder to form a snug fitting coat on the skin. They have a composite powder made by coating plate like powder with spherical powder. So they've combined those two together to form a smooth, even layer on the skin. And it says, just like covering a surface with playing cards, the powders seal perfectly to the eyelids, providing a beautiful finish that maintains clarity even when multiple layers are applied. Just a few product details. We have 6 grams of product, and these are made in Japan. Personally, I think that these new eyeshadow palettes are fantastic. Since Addiction Tokyo has come to the US, we didn't really have access to their regular permanent line eyeshadow palettes. The eyeshadow palettes that have come here have been limited edition for holidays and so forth. And I'm happy to see a new permanent line of eyeshadow quads available. And I have to say that the new formulas, I do notice a improvement over the previous ones. Previously, it felt like, and again, I only had a couple of the original palettes, it felt like the shadows in the singles were just a little bit creamier and softer, easier to use than some of the eyeshadow palettes. They were, similar, but the shadows weren't always quite as good as the singles, in my opinion. And that wasn't true for every palette, but that was kind of, it was close, but there was a difference. And now with these new palettes, I feel like the quality of the eyeshadow is as good, if not better, than the singles from Addiction Tokyo. They're really close, but these are creamy, they're smooth, they stay put, you've got beautiful colors, a variety of finishes. I'm really incredibly happy with these, and I love having quads with, preset color stories to kind of take some of the thought out of getting ready in the morning. So I'm very, very happy with these new eyeshadow quads. And by the way, although the Italian embroidery collection is considered a limited edition collection, these eyeshadow quads are not limited edition. So we're looking at certain shades of some of the other items that are limited, but the eyeshadow palettes, I have been told, will be sticking around. So let's take a look at the gel eyeliners. And these are going to be more of your micro pencil shape. So it's going to be very thin, fine point. Again, we do have a sponge tip applicator at one end. And according to Addiction, it says, line your eyes with more freedom and ease. A gel eyeliner that glides on smoothly with intense color payoff in an array of shades. This gel eyeliner glides on buttery smooth and lets you draw lines exactly the way you want. It adheres snugly to the skin, delivering a beautiful waterproof finish that lasts. From basic tones to nuanced shades, we have an extensive lineup of colors to broaden your eye makeup possibilities. It says it applies smoothly even on the lash line and edges of the eye. I did not put it on the actual part of the waterline that gets wet, but going up against it, it does last all day on me. It has fantastic performance. These are generously formulated with color pigments for intense color payoff. It's a non-sticky finish that's easy to blur but won't bleed. Waterproof and smudge proof for all day wear. And again, we have a 2mm tip for drawing graphical lines if you choose. And you have the blending applicator to create a sharp flick. It's free of alcohol, oil, including mineral oil, parabens, gluten, and it's fragrance free. And that's one of my favorite features of Addiction Tokyo in general, is being fragrance free for most of their products. Now, I believe all of the gel eyeliner pencils here are also sticking around. So these are not limited either, to my knowledge. Now, as I mentioned, we have a few different liquid eyeliners. So we have 2 that are going to be in your classic coloring, the 001C black and the 002C in the brown. And these are not going to have any shimmer or anything whatsoever. They're classic. They're not going anywhere. According to Addiction, it says, from dramatic coloring to shimmering translucence, soft graphic eyeliners that unleash infinite possibilities for your eye makeup. These liquid eyeliners provide a casual update to your gaze in a wide range of colors. So we have the pearl version, which has a whole variety of different shades, as well as these more matte black and brown shades. And according to Addiction, it delivers intense color payoff with color pigments that adhere snugly to the skin. Dries quickly with a formula optimized for each color. It's a smudge-proof formula that resists sebum and tears, lasts all day, won't fade, skip, or flake off. It's designed to hold plenty of color pigments, so the container dispenses a steady ink flow. We've got that brush tip with calculated firmness. It allows you to draw graphical lines of any style, and it's free of alcohol, mineral oil, parabens, gluten, and fragrances. So the black and brown eyeliners, again, those are going to be your classics. Personally, I absolutely love the pearl finish. We do have 9 shades in the pearl finish, including one limited edition color, which I do not have. I did not purchase that. But number 101 SP Autumn Mirage is a limited edition shade, and it looks to be a soft gold. Now, similar to other Japanese brands, numbers that are going to be over 100 for your item numbers, those are going to be your limited edition items. So if it has a number below 100, then typically that will be a permanent product. So as I mentioned, I love the pearl shades. My favorite is probably, honestly, I love all 3 that I have, but the amethyst is probably my favorite, followed by the olive. And then I have to say I'm really impressed with this icy white, particularly on the lower lash line for some brightening. And I love layering that one really close to the lash line and then putting a deeper shade just adjacent to it. So it adds some brightening, but you have another color there as well. So that's kind of my favorite combination with that. And just a few product details. The gel eyeliners have 1 gram of product and they are made in Japan. The liquid eyeliners have 0.5 milliliter, also made in Japan. And then taking a look at the mascaras, these have 6.8 milliliters, also made in Japan. And I have to say, I think they're really fun. So I've talked about this formula before. It is a lengthening formula that really gives just a nice amount of color. You can definitely put this over like a white base to get a little bit more pigmentation, or you can just use it on its own for a little bit more of a subtle detail, which is typically how I like to use it. And I just think it is a lot of fun. So although the formula here is not new, we do have 4 new shades here, which are part of this collection. And to my knowledge, they are all going to be permanently added to this collection here. So according to Addiction Tokyo, it says, embellish your lashes with translucent color, adding an understated twist to your latest style. A sheer type mascara that coats lashes in vivid translucent color for a delicately nuanced look, giving full play to your natural lashes. This mascara achieves the effect of a superimposed color film. It beautifully separates the lashes, adhering snugly and imparting delicate color that flows all the way to the tips, which is exactly what I like personally. I love my lashes to be separated. I've got a little bit of length and I just have that subtle nuance of color, which just makes it look a little special there. So again, according to Addiction, it's sheer nuanced color that lets your lashes' own darkness show through, glides on neatly, separating as it goes to deliver delicate light volume, maintains a beautiful curl and freshly applied look. The waterproof type resists sweat and water, and it's fragrance free. So can't ask for anything more than that. I have to say some waterproof mascaras can be really difficult to remove. This one is not. I use an oil-based cleanser and it's really easy to remove with my cleanser. I typically use the Tatcha Camellia cleansing oil, but I am going to be trying out the Addiction Tokyo eye and lip makeup remover as well. I got a sample of that. They were doing a promotion where when you place your order for eyeshadow palettes, you would get a deluxe sample. So I'll be testing that out as well, but I don't have an issue with removal with my normal cleansing routine. And as I mentioned, I really didn't get too much eye irritation, even with all of the eye swatches and demos. And that's not typical of most eyeshadow brands. Doing just that sheer quantity even, typically I'm going to have a little bit more of, soreness and rawness, redness to my eyelids than I got from these. The formula definitely, you can tell, definitely has those skin caring ingredients that are actually effective. So I would definitely recommend these for people who have sensitive skin in particular. If you like lighter eyeshadow looks, these are really easy to achieve with that, but you can also build these up to get something more pigmented. The gel eyeliners, liquid eyeliners, mascaras, I think they are all fantastic. For the gel eyeliners, I think it's really easy having the flat top to use with a brush, but I typically do like to apply just with the pencil. So I would appreciate having some sort of little like sharpening tip included, but it's not really a deal breaker for me. I do like to use my brushes and put it on softly and smudge it out anyway. And the applicator there is helpful if you want to apply it and then use the sponge tip applicator as well. So it is useful the way it is. It's just not something that I'm technically, it's just not something that I'm used to with the twist up styles. The only other con I have on the twist up style is the fact that you cannot twist it back down. I do like the ability to twist it back down. So that's kind of a con there, but the formula I think is fantastic. As for the liquid eyeliners, if you like liquid eyeliners, these, in my opinion, are amazing. I definitely prefer these over, I do prefer them over the Suku, which were definitely in my top 2 before. This has definitely gone above that. I'd say they're pretty comparable with the UZ, but I think I might prefer the colors here a little bit, and kind of that pearl finish, and it's so smooth. You don't feel any like grittiness or anything. You can see nothing smudging. Mascara doesn't smudge, doesn't feel sticky. The eyeliners, it's not smudging, and everything stays put so well. We've got such beautiful shades. So again, these are the mascaras here, the Scarlet, the Lapis, and the Matcha. These are liquid eyeliners in the black, the brown, this is the olive, amethyst, and icy white. And then we have the gel eyeliners here. So we have the Vintage Leather, Old Brick. This is the City Dusk, which actually, is going to be a brownish gray. So definitely more brown in there than you might expect. Then the one I have on is Night Dive. Then we have Ivy Tree, Rose Rust, and Bloody Berry. So I think we've got some great shades there. As for the eyeshadow palettes, absolutely love these. I think they're fantastic. So we have number 1, Vintage Tutu. Number 2, Cashmere Dream. 4, Autumn Runaway. This is 6, Hidden Orchid. Moving on, we have 7. This is going to be Memory of Sage. This is going to be number 8, Miss Mauve, which is what's on my eyes. Then we have 9, Enchanted Lilac, and 12, Heirloom Jewel. I don't know if I can truly pick favorites here, but definitely in the top, we're going to have the Miss Mauve. I think this is excellent set of neutrals with purple in there, which is great for brown eyes. I would say Enchanted Lilac, Heirloom Jewel are definitely up there as well. Then, Hidden Orchid. But I would have to say probably Miss Mauve as my number 1 favorite. Absolutely love this whole collection. I think it's stunning. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this has been helpful. Let me know what you've tried and what you're interested in from this collection. Thanks so much for watching. And again, thank you to Addiction Tokyo for the items that were gifted as well. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you very soon.